Hey there, getting some baby chicks today. And so in this video, I want to walk you through all the things that you need in terms of equipment and the steps and stuff to make sure that your chicks are healthy and happy and safe. And so the first thing you want to do is, even before the chicks come, is to set up your brooder. And a brooder is just an area where you're going to have the chicks live until they get big enough to go outside. And you want to make sure that it's warm and that they have food and water and some nice bedding so it doesn't get too gross in there. And so you can set this up pretty much anywhere. You could set this up in your garage, or in a barn or a shed, or sort of wherever it works. Just remember the chickens do get bigger and they do poop a lot. So keep that in mind when you're setting things up. I did it for a while in my garage with like an open top wooden box type thing. And now I'm using my sheds. So let me show you what's going on with that. So this is my shed, and you can see here it's sectioned off for a brooder, and the rest is for feed and tool storage and amendments and stuff like that. And I wouldn't say you necessarily need a dedicated area that's sectioned off for a brooder, but I was brooding chicks pretty often in here when we had a larger flock, and I had the space, and this is all built out of like scrap wood, so it made a lot of sense. So this is my setup, and the nice thing is, because this used to be my coop, there's a sliding door on the side here, so after about 3 weeks I can open them up and let them go out to the run here, so they can have a sort of indoor-outdoor setup for a while before they go out with the main flock. But let me show you inside on how to set up a brooder. It's very simple, but you need a couple of key things. Well, this is my basic setup here. It's a little tight in here for me to be in here, but they're little baby chicks that'll be in here. This is plenty of room. I can usually brood 25 to 30 in here, no problem. And one thing I really like is this watering setup. So you can use any sort of watering setup. This is like a 1 gallon water. You can use the little ones that go in mason jars, but this one will water them all for a while. I like this one a lot. This is super cheap. I can get it pretty much anywhere. Pretty much any water will do. This is a really cool little thing. So I built this. This is just 2x3s and some 1/4-inch hardware cloth and some 1x2s on the top. And what happens here is that I just have a feed bowl here, and this sits over like this, and then the water sits here. So that way, if there's any water that spills, it will generally get caught in that feed bowl underneath. Also, it keeps the water a little bit cleaner. They're going to make a mess regardless, but then they have to at least get their little feet on the hardware cloth before getting into the water. So there's a little bit of a buffer zone. It may give you a couple more hours of clean water, which is always good. I like these big feeders because you can get a lot of chicks going in there at once. I'm getting 20 today, but you want to make sure that most of them can get to the feed at the same time. You don't need a whole spot for everybody, but I like these long feeders. They're great, and they're also very inexpensive. I just have a big cinder block or brick here to hold it up, just to keep it out of the shavings a little bit. And then I also have some chick grit over there, which I put out for them. Sometimes they eat it, sometimes they don't. And one big key thing is the heat lamp. And there's all sorts of different heat lamps. There's like these like little stand things that heat underneath. And I kind of just like the regular old clamp lamp with the red bulb. It seems to work really well for me. It's just very simple and inexpensive. There's a lot of different ways to do this, but I've had good results with that. I've used all those methods, and they all work. There's all sorts of different, ceramic heaters. I haven't used the ceramic heater, but the red bulbs and those like stand heater things, I have one. But just this seems to work really well. The one thing you want to keep in mind about the heat lamp is that you want to make sure the height's right, and I'll talk about that in a little bit once we get the chicks in here. But anyways, this is the setup. This is the basic stuff you need. And I just have pine shavings on the bottom here, and you get that pretty much anywhere. And that's about it. I'm going to wait for the phone call from the post office, and then we'll go pick up the baby chicks. Well, I just got the phone call from the post office, so I'm going to go pick them up. All right, well, I'm at the post office now, and get my bandana up here. I feel like I'm going to rob a stagecoach or something. Just kidding. Gonna go get the chicks. All right, got the baby chicks. Hear them chirping? Let's take a peek. Hey guys, let's get you home. Well, I'm home. They're chirpy. Let's get them in there. All right, so just to show you the whole process here, I just took the lid off. Put your box in the brooder so that if one jumps out or whatever, they're not going to run around. And then you don't have them to move them very far. I ordered 20, and I ordered a bunch of different varieties because it'll be more fun for us. So what I like to do is take the chick. Oh my goodness. And you want to just introduce it to some water. So I just take it and I dip its beak in the water once or twice. And that's literally the first drink of water that they've ever gotten. And then I'm gonna put her under the heat lamp for now. Let her get warm because they're probably cold. So I'm just gonna do this with all the other chicks. So here they are under the heat lamp, and their first order of business is to get warm. They're only 2 days old and they don't have feathers to keep themselves warm yet. So when you first put them in, make sure they're getting nice and warmed up after their journey, and they will start to venture out as they get warm and go and grab water and food, but that is not their first priority. It's to get warm. And you can see they've only been under here for a minute or two, and they're starting to spread out a little bit, which is a good sign. But I'll talk more about that a little bit later as we check in with them. Right now, they're just being cute. So they've been in here a little while, and I saw them eating and drinking and doing their baby chick stuff. And one thing I want to talk about is the heat lamp. One thing about these open lamps is that you have to be very, very safe with them. There are definitely horror stories of them falling over and burning things down and all that kind of stuff, but just be really careful with them. What I like to do is I put a big spring clamp over the clamp, and that thing does not move. So that's what I like to do. Now, the one thing you can do to adjust these is to move them up and down. So what you want to look for with the chicks, if you see them all right under the middle of the lamp, huddled around each other, piling on top of each other, then they're too cold. If you see them everywhere but the lamp, then it's too warm. If you kind of see them spread out, kind of like how they are now, it's probably good. So the height is going to be determined by how old the chicks are, because as they get older they'll need less heat, and also the temperature in here. So if it's really warm in here, they won't need much heat at all, so you can raise up the lamp. If it's really cold in here, we have a couple of cooler nights coming up, so keep the lamp nice and low. But for right now, this is probably good, as I've been observing them for a little while, and they'll self-regulate their temperature. So if they get hot, they'll move away. If they get cold, they'll move underneath. But because I don't see them all piled up underneath, I think that's probably good. And you can see that they're eating, so they're cool. They're curious. They've been cruising around. They've come up to me when I open the door. Overall, really happy with them. Well, those are some of the basics of what you got to do when you get chicks and the day that you get them and basic care. But I do want to give some little bit of background information if you guys are maybe more rookies in terms of taking care of chickens. So first of all, some terminology to go over. You hear these words a lot, and when I first started, I was very confused. A pullet is a young hen, that's a female bird, and a cockerel is a young rooster or a male chicken. So when you order chickens, you can order three different ways. You can order pullets, or just females or hens. You can order cockerels, or just roosters or males, or you can also what's called straight run. And straight run is you just get what you get, and so you just get a mixture of the two, and you get to figure out what you get when you get there. Now you want to figure out if you do want roosters or not, and that's a big thing for you to decide on. I have had roosters in the past, and I don't have a rooster anymore. Now we have our guard goose. So if you want to check out a video about Larry, or guard goose, go check that out. You do not need a rooster for the hens to lay eggs. I know there's some people will say that for some reason they think it increases the production. I don't know. My hens lay tons of eggs. I don't have a rooster. So you don't need a rooster unless you are breeding the chickens, or you just like having a rooster, or I don't know, whatever other reason, but you do not need to have a rooster. So that's another thing to keep in mind. I can't cover all the breeds and information about breeds in a video like this, and nor do I know about every breed, but I'd like to think of chickens as being in three categories. The first of which is what's called a broiler, or a chicken you're gonna eat. And those are generally Cornish crosses or Freedom Rangers. Those are the two main ones that you'll see. And they really are raised for that purpose only, and that's really what you're going to get them for. The other one are the hybrid laying birds, such as like Isobrowns, red sex-links, golden comets, a lot of different names like that. And those guys, they don't eat a lot, they lay a lot of eggs, but you wouldn't want to eat them because there really isn't a lot of meat on their bodies. And so they're generally used for really high production egg situations. If you have a commercial farm or you just really want the most amount of eggs possible, then that's the kind of chicken you want to go for. And then you have this sort of what they call dual purpose chickens, and those are more heritage breeds. They're usually a little bit hardier. They're usually a little bit bigger. You can eat them if you want, that sort of thing. But there's all sorts of different kinds of chickens out there. Do your research. They all have, you know, different body weights, colors of eggs. There's so many different things to choose. And you know what I've really loved in the past, which was a few years ago now, is the mixed flock. So that's what we're going to do now, is that mixed flock. Another thing I want to talk about is having a really high quality feed for your birds. Make sure you buy the best that you can, and don't buy that medicated stuff. You do not need it. Just get a really high quality feed and you should be good. Try to get the best thing that you can. I buy my feed from a local source. It's all North Carolina ingredients and non-GMO grains, and it's awesome. I'll leave a link down below if you guys want to check it out. If you're in North Carolina, you can pick that up. What you're really looking for is a 20% chick starter or 20% pullet starter. There's different feed you get for meat birds, so make sure you get one that's designed for layers. And you're going to feed them that until they're about, you know, 16 weeks of age, and then you can switch them over to layer feed. So, you know, make sure you buy, you know, some really good feed, because that's really what's going to help get your chicks off to a good start. All right, so where to get your chicks? Well, there are a lot of great hatcheries out there, and I'm not going to go into all of them because I don't have experience with all of them. I've had some good experiences and some bad experiences, and at this point I have 2 hatcheries that I really like, that I recommend. I'm not affiliated with them whatsoever, and I'm sure you guys have had good experiences with your hatcheries too. And once you find one that you have gotten good results from and you like their customer service and their selection, just stick with them. I really like Town Line Hatchery and for all my chickens, and I really like Metzer Farms for ducks and geese and other things too. I will leave links down below for those as well. I'll probably be checking on the chicks a few times a day for the first few days, and once they get into rhythm, then probably just twice a day when I'm coming out here to deal with the hens in the morning and the evening, just to top up their food, change out their water, adjust the heat lamp if I need to. And the other thing is, after they poop in there more, I'll just add more wood shavings or pine shavings on top to sort of build up that layer a little bit and keep them nice and dry. That's really important. So hopefully this was a good little starter bit of information for you if you're interested in getting chicks. They're really awesome. They're a lot of fun. It's very satisfying, but you just got to make sure that you're prepared. I hear horror stories about people buying chicks, coming home and just not having gear. Make sure everything is set up before the chicks come. And that's something you really want to keep in mind. And the other thing is, if you think it's weird mail ordering chicks, I totally understand. It's super normal. They can live off of what they have in their eggs for 3 days, and they send them 2-day air. So, you know, they're hatched on Monday, you get them on Wednesday. But if you don't like that practice, I totally get it. Look for local hatcheries. I think that can be a great thing as well. Or you can start, you know, having your own flock and you have a rooster and hatching out your own chicks, and that can be really cool too. But it's all up to you guys. This is just what I do, and hopefully this is helpful. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you hit subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow.